Car design in the 1960s wasn't just style, it was a weapon system. Look at your dashboard today. What do you see? A fragile iPad glued to plastic. It is distracting. It feels like a waiting room. Now look at classic car interiors. This is cockpit superiority. In the Golden Age, American engineers didn't build cabins, they built command centers. Guided by the philosophy of Harley Earl, the father of General Motors design, they knew that at 100 miles per hour, you are not a passenger. You are a pilot. Every gauge, every switch, and every lever was angled toward you. But somewhere along the line, we traded chrome for plastic and instant control for laggy menus. We didn't just lose style, we lost the tactical advantage. Today, the American Motor Files opens the classified archives to answer one question. Did we actually forget how to build a car, or did they just stop trusting us to fly them? Harley Earl didn't design cars for comfort, he built command centers. In 1927, he founded the General Motors Art and Color section, an engineering strike team with one mission: put the operator in control. Earl's studios ran like a war room. Rivals were locked out. Clay models were sculpted under floodlights, every line shaped for speed and authority. His mandate was simple: treat the driver as a pilot, not a passenger. The instrument panel became an armament panel. Chrome wasn't decoration, it was a visual cue, a boundary between operator and machine. Earl studied the lines of fighter aircraft, then ordered his teams to anchor every gauge, lever, and switch for instant reach at triple-digit speeds. Ergonomics, in this doctrine, meant combat effectiveness. The bucket seat wasn't a lounge, it locked the operator into a firing position. No excess, no distraction. Raymond Loewy, working on the other side of the Atlantic, brought a doctrine forged in industrial warfare. Form follows function, but only if it wins. His Maya principle, most advanced yet acceptable, demanded that every interface serve the operator's mission. Loewy's studio posted a sign above the drafting tables: "Weight is the enemy." He stripped dashboards to their essentials, eliminating ornament for clarity. The goal was to minimize cognitive load, to let muscle memory take over. Controls fell to hand by design, not accident. For Loewy, a cockpit was not a canvas, it was a battlefield. Two men, two doctrines. Both converged on a single reality. In the Golden Age, the driver was a pilot, and the cockpit was a weapon system. This was the foundation for everything that followed. A car is not a lounge, it is a command center. In the 1960s, this was not a metaphor, it was a mandate. The culture expected a machine that answered to its operator, not the other way around. The term command center entered the auto press in the mid-60s, and it was not marketing fluff. It was a recognition that a true cockpit demanded discipline, clarity, and immediate response. The driver was cast as a pilot in a high-speed environment, managing information and control with the precision of an aviator. Every surface, every switch, every gauge was positioned for tactical efficiency. Analog was not nostalgia, it was necessity. Tactile feedback, radial orientation, and muscle memory were the backbone of control. You did not tap a screen and hope, you reached for a switch and got a mechanical answer. Ergonomics meant minimizing cognitive load, not maximizing comfort. The mission was simple: reduce the time between intention and action. That is why the 1960s cockpit was laid out like an avionics bay, clustered, logical, and built for speed. No distractions, no dead zones, no ambiguity. The command center doctrine was not just design language, it was a philosophy of trust. Trust the operator to command the machine. Trust the interface to deliver under pressure. That is the difference between piloting and riding. In the next act, you will see what that doctrine looked like in steel, leather, and chrome. A cockpit built for combat, not compromise. A cockpit is not a suggestion. It is a command post, engineered for survival at the limits of human performance. Aviation proved this before Detroit ever caught up. Step into the McDonnell Douglas F-4 Phantom, and you will find the logic that defined the era: every gauge, every switch, every dial arrayed in a pilot's arc, radial, tactile, unmistakable. The main panel is tilted 20 degrees toward the operator with analog needles clustered by function. Engine, altitude, attitude, grouped for a scan pattern that can be executed at Mach 2 in turbulence under fire. Toggle switches, metal and guarded, requiring a deliberate 5 to 10 newtons of force, snap into place with a mechanical certainty that no touchscreen can match. These are not suggestions, they are orders you feel in your bones. The North American X-15 did not have time for ambiguity. At Mach 6, digital was a liability. The X-15 relied on heavy, spring-loaded toggles for every critical system, including oxygen, fuel, and emergency jettison, each with a distinct detent and travel. Overhead panels were reserved for re-entry, controls angled 30 degrees toward the pilot's line of sight. No guessing, no searching. The pilot's hand went to the right switch every time, even in blackout conditions. The seat geometry locked the body into a firing position, enforcing discipline under G-forces that would tear lesser designs apart. Commercial aviation followed suit. The Boeing 707 flight deck wrapped the operator in a curved instrument bay, sweeping gauges in a radial arc, overhead panels for secondary systems, and a yoke that mirrored the tactile logic of the fighter. Every control was within a 75-centimeter reach envelope, as dictated by the first generation of SAE and NACA human factors standards. Visual field management was codified 35 degrees down, 65 degrees up, and 50 degrees to either side. No dead zones, no distractions. This was the template. Detroit's best designers, men like Harley Earl and his rivals, studied these cockpits, not for decoration, but for doctrine. They understood that in a real cockpit, control is not a matter of comfort, it is a matter of command. The analog logic, the tactile certainty, the radial orientation, these became the standards that separated a pilot from a passenger. The car would follow, but the proof was written first in aluminum, rivets, and toggles that could be actuated blindfolded at 100 miles per hour. That is the lineage. That is the standard. Anything less is a toy. The 1963 Corvette Stingray did not borrow from aviation. It raided the playbook. The dual cowl instrument panel is no styling flourish. It is a direct translation of the F-4 Phantom Pilot arc. Every gauge is arrayed in a radial sweep, tilted toward the operator by 20 degrees. The tachometer and speedometer sit dead ahead, right in the driver's line of sight. No hunting, no hesitation. Toggle switches line the lower panel, each one requiring a deliberate actuation force. You want wipers at 120 miles per hour? You get a real switch, a mechanical answer, not a digital maybe. The telescoping steering column locks the operator into a firing position, a geometry dictated by the same reach envelope standards that governed fighter jets. This is not nostalgia. This is industrial doctrine. The 1966 Ford Thunderbird called it the flight deck, and the name was earned. The entire dash wraps around the operator like a cockpit bay, clustering analog instruments in a sweep that mimics the Boeing 707 curved panel. The swing-away steering wheel is not a party trick. It is a clearance maneuver, inspired by aviation yokes that pivot for pilot ingress. Gauges are grouped by system, engine, fuel, mission-critical data, all within a 75-centimeter reach envelope. Walnut trim is not luxury, it is a visual boundary separating command from distraction. Every switch, every lever, every dial is placed by intent, not accident. The Thunderbird is not a car you sit in, it is a control center you strap on. The 1969 Dodge Charger Rally Cluster is a masterclass in tactical information management. The entire gauge array is tilted 18 degrees toward the driver, no ambiguity, no wasted glance. The speedometer and tachometer are oversized, positioned for instant scan at speed. Knurled knobs and toggle switches line the console, each one engineered for gloved operation. This is not consumer-grade ergonomics. This is muscle memory, forged for the demands of high-G maneuvers. The Charger cockpit is not just inspired by aviation, it is built to the same logic. If you can reach it blindfolded, you can command it at 100 miles an hour. Across the Atlantic, the Jaguar E-Type proves this was not an American quirk. Smith's gauges stretch in a linear array, toggle switches lined in a 45-degree cone, all within the operator's natural reach. The wood-rimmed wheel and bucket seats lock the driver into a combat-ready stance. The E-Type cockpit is a global confirmation. Command-focused interiors were a standard, not an exception. 4 cars, 4 case studies, each one a hard artifact of the doctrine. Pilot-centric, analog, engineered for survival, not for comfort, not for distraction. This is what cockpit superiority looks like when the operator is trusted to command the machine. Modern science finally caught up with what the jet-age designers already knew. In 2024, the International Journal of Ergonomics published a study that stripped the debate down to hard numbers. Physical buttons and analog switches reduce cognitive load and sharpen reaction times. The study's protocol was brutal. No cozy labs, no simulated dashboards. Drivers faced real-world tasks at speed, with a sample size large enough to silence the marketing department. 200 test subjects, all ages, all backgrounds. The results? Physical buttons let operators complete tasks 230 milliseconds faster than touchscreens. That's not a rounding error. At highway velocity, that means the difference between a clean lane change and a collision. But the numbers go deeper. When drivers use tactile controls, their eyes spent 35% less time away from the road. That's not a suggestion. That's a tactical advantage. Touchscreens, by contrast, demanded constant visual confirmation. No muscle memory, no blind actuation, no chance to operate by feel. Every climate adjustment, every radio change, every navigation entry was a forced eyes-off-road event. The data destroyed the myth of digital superiority. Buttons use muscle memory. Screens demand visual attention. The study's lead author, a human factors engineer with a background in aviation, put it bluntly. The analog interface enables operators to execute commands without diverting visual resources. Touchscreens fragment attention and introduce delay. In the language of the cockpit, that's a kill shot. The analog panel is not nostalgia, it's a weapon system validated by science. The metrics are clear. Tactile feedback, radial orientation, and pilot-centric layouts are not just preferences, they are survival tools. When milliseconds count, the cockpit that trusts the operator wins. The rest is just distraction, dressed up as progress. SAE. International did not leave cockpit design to chance. In the 1960s, their engineers codified what fighter pilots and test drivers already practiced. Command centers are built on hard metrics, not marketing. SAE J287, the reach zone specification, set the standards. Every control must fall within a 75-centimeter envelope from the operator's seat, no matter the operator's size. That is not a suggestion, it is a line drawn in steel and plastic. If you cannot reach it with your hands on the wheel, it does not belong in the cockpit. Glance. Time is not a trivial metric. The SAE 2-second rule is gospel. No control should ever require more than 2 seconds of eyes off-road time, period. This echoes the findings of the 2024 International Journal of Ergonomics study, but the engineers at SAE had it in writing half a century earlier. Their guidelines demanded that every switch, dial, and button be both visible and tactile. No hunting, no guessing, no screen menus buried 3 layers deep. Controls were to be differentiated by shape, resistance, and placement. You could find the wipers at night, in the rain, at speed, with gloves on. That is not nostalgia, that is adherence to a doctrine of combat effectiveness. A representative from the SAE Human Factors Committee put it bluntly in a 1971 panel. The operator must be able to actuate any primary control without visual confirmation. If you have to look, you have already lost. This is the language of survival, not convenience. The standards were born from hard data, reaction time studies, reach envelope measurements, and fatigue tests. They were enforced by engineers who treated the cockpit as a system to be commanded, not a lounge to be enjoyed. These rules did not just shape the Corvette or the Thunderbird. They became the baseline for every serious machine of the era. The standards separated the weapon systems from the toys. When you sat behind the wheel, you were not a consumer. You were the pilot, and the panel in front of you was designed to keep you alive at speed. SAE did not trust chance, and neither should you. Then came the 1973 Arab Oil Embargo, a fourfold spike in crude prices overnight. Gas lines stretched for blocks. The American Vi-8, once the heart of every cockpit, became a liability. Detroit's orders were clear: cut weight, cut power, cut cost. The mission profile changed from command to compliance. Chrome was stripped, toggle switches vanished, replaced by plastic sliders that cost pennies to mold and satisfied no one at speed. Every dollar saved on a switch was a dollar kept from the jaws of bankruptcy. Budgets for interior development were slashed. The engineering brief no longer called for radial gauge arrays or tactile certainty. It called for survival. By 1974, the average car lost 30% of its performance envelope. The cockpit, once a weapon system, was downgraded to an appliance. Ergonomics was redefined by accountants, not by pilots. The analog interface, proven in combat and on the test track, was sacrificed to the altar of efficiency. The operator was no longer trusted to command. He was told to conserve, to comply, to accept a cockpit designed for cost, not control. Federal Motor Vehicle Safety Standards 201 and 203 landed like a hammer in 1975. The cockpit, once a fortress of steel toggles and chrome detents, was stripped for compliance. NHTSA did not just regulate crash survival, they regulated interface. The new rules targeted interior projections. Anything that could injure in a collision had to go. Toggle switches, once the backbone of command, were condemned as hazards. Out went the heavy metal levers and sharp-edged dials. In came flush plastic sliders, membrane pads, and padded surfaces, energy-absorbing, yes, but dead to the touch. The instrument panel lost its tactical edge. Every control was forced to retreat beneath a layer of foam or plastic, neutered in the name of safety. The analog hierarchy, gauges clustered by priority, toggles grouped by system, was flattened. What survived was sanitized, stripped of muscle memory and mechanical certainty. As one NHTSA historian said, "We didn't trust the operator to command, we trusted the padding to save them." The cockpit was no longer a weapon system. It was a padded cell, engineered for compliance, not control. Today, cockpit design is at a crossroads. Touchscreens ignore the fundamental law. At 100 miles per hour, you are the pilot, not a distracted passenger. The 2024 International Journal of Ergonomics confirms that analog controls deliver faster reaction times and that screens sabotage command. Industry forgot the mission. The question now is, do you want to fly or just swipe? That choice defines who controls the machine. Drop your perspective in the comments below.